Negotiators and Hamas officials say a ceasefire deal to end the war in Gaza has been reached. US President-elect Donald Trump has also announced an agreement on social media. So far, there's no official confirmation from Israel, but Israeli sources are saying the deal is going through. In Gaza, thousands are on the streets celebrating the news. The deal calls for an immediate stop to the hostilities that have killed tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. The deal would also call for Hamas to release 33 Israeli hostages, living or dead, in its first phase. And we can cross straight to our correspondent Tanya Kremer in Jerusalem for the very latest. Tanya, what can you tell us?
Well, I think this is really the news that so many have been waiting for here, for this war that has been going on for the past almost 15 months, and for the families of the hostages as well that remain there in Gaza. Now, we understand that, from many sources that Hamas and Israel have appeared to have reached this deal for a first phase of this deal. I have to say, we are still waiting also to hear an official confirmation from the mediators, from the Qatari Prime Minister sometime later. Now, we have been hearing from President-elect already. He went out to say, Donald Trump, he went out to say, we have a deal. All of this had been mediated in the past days. And, both sides were edging closer and closer every day, a lot of back and forth. So this seems to be the case. And we also, of course, have to wait for the Israeli confirmation. There's a whole process now starting then, which this deal has to be voted on in the security and the wider cabinet. This will most likely happen tomorrow.
Tanya, you mentioned the stages of the deal. Can you tell us about the challenges in making this deal a reality?
Well, I think this is exactly how you have to put it. There are a lot of challenges in this deal. And from what we understand now, this is entering now the first phase. We're waiting to hear, of course, more details. Some of the details have been reported, but for more confirmation on what has been agreed on. Now, in this first phase, we would be seeing 33 hostages being released, and this first phase would be 42 days. This could be starting, and we're waiting to hear exactly when this pause in fighting will actually start, as early as Sunday, as we're hearing here from Israeli sources. This has not been confirmed as of yet, with the start of some of the hostages being released. So it's not going to be that 33 hostages will be released in one day in exchange for a certain amount of Palestinian prisoners, but this will be phased out over this period of 42 days. And from what we understand for now is that on day 16, the two parties will have to start negotiating that this deal will become from a very temporary ceasefire going into a more permanent ceasefire, going into a second phase, which then would also see the release of the remaining hostages in Gaza. There are 98 hostages that are in Gaza currently, and for the first phase we will see only 33 hostages being released. What we also don't know is their condition. We don't know exactly whether they're alive or whether some of them are no longer alive. So all of this, of course, we will only see then in the coming days.
DW correspondent Tanya Kremer reporting from Jerusalem. Tanya, thank you so much for bringing us up to date there. And I'm joined now by Yair Moses, whose elderly father, Gadi Moses, is still in captivity in Gaza. So, Yair, welcome to DW, first of all. Thank you so much for your time. It is looking like a deal to free the remaining hostages has been agreed. We are, of course, still waiting for final confirmation from the Israeli government. Could I ask you to describe your feelings to us at this point? Your father has been in captivity for so long.
Yeah. For 167 days, and which is more than 15 months. Yes, my father, 80 years old, and it's very tense. It's very hard to think even what was going to be. As you said, it still need to be agreed by the Israeli cabinet and the government, and then we'll have to start it. And because of the way this deal was agreed, it will take a long time until people will be back. And it will be very, very hard for us to wait, for each family to wait the right day where their loved one will be back, including my father. Partly they're talking about women in the first day. So I don't know if and when they already know when my father's supposed to come back. Yeah, but it's very, very hard. It's very, very tense. But hopefully it will go smoothly and all of them will be back because we don't know when it's take a week before each time people are released. Many things can happen and many things can cause this to break. And I hope it will continue until the end and everyone will be back. And not just the first stage, only the second, also the second stage, and all the 98 people will be back in Israel.
Do you have any information at all about your father at this point in time?
The only information we have is the video from December 23. Since then, we have nothing. We don't know if he's in tunnels or upground. We don't know if he's by himself or with other people. We don't know the condition he's been held. And actually, we don't even know if he's alive or not.
Can I ask you about how Israeli authorities have been communicating with the relatives of hostages? How have they been communicating with you?
Currently, during these negotiations, we don't get updates because there is nothing official. I'm sure that the minute it will be agreed by Israel government, hopefully even when it's said it was agreed, we will get some information, but I don't know when it will happen and when did they decide to update me. But during the week on the negotiation, we didn't get any updates.
If we can come back to this deal again, some are saying that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has been forced into this deal because of the incoming Trump presidency, that he wouldn't have agreed to it otherwise. What do you think about that?
I think Israeli government could do much more many months ago. You must remember we're dealing with monsters and the negotiation is very hard, and I'm not sure something would have been agreed, but I'm sure that the Israel government could do more. And I hope now the condition, and it doesn't matter if it's inside the pressure of outside from Trump or whatever the reasons are, I'm happy that finally they managed to agree this. But like we said, it wasn't agreed yet by the Israeli government. So we're not there yet.
Yair Moses, the son of one of the hostages still being held in Gaza. Yair, thank you so much for your time, for speaking to us today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we can get more now on these truce talks from our Middle East analyst, Shani Rosanis. Good to see you, Shani. Yeah. So there have obviously been talks for months, haven't there? So what happened? Describe to us what happened to finally bring this breakthrough.
Well, if you want to keep it simple, it's a Trump effect. You know, Donald Trump making it into the White House in 5 days is definitely a big incentive. He has announced already when he was campaigning he wants to see this war over. He has bigger plans for the Middle East. He wants to get the Gaza war out of the way so he can move forward with the Saudis and you know, the bigger plan that he has for the region. So there's a bit of he's also considered to be somewhat of an enigmatic leader. There's not quite clear stand that he has on this issue when it comes to Palestinians, even. Surprisingly, there seems to be more trust on him, with him. They seem to be trusting him more than they have trusted the Biden administration. His input, his people's input would be more accurate to say, into these negotiations have made a tremendous effect in the sense of guaranteeing some of the things that, you know, Hamas was asking for the longest time. And it seems like that him and his people coming into play have really made a big difference here. Of course, it also connects to the fact that both sides have realized that they probably have more to gain at this specific point in time from, you know, making these concessions than keep on, you know, their old positions. It's all connecting together, but there's no doubt that Trump and the Trump administration, Trump people have put a lot of pressure into that, and that made a very big difference. Mm-hmm.
Can we say that this is now the end of the war?
Well, it's the beginning of the end, if we want to be more accurate to that. This phase, the first phase, it will hopefully will start Sunday or Monday of Israel is released and Palestinian prisoners released, is just the first phase of 42 days. at a certain point, after 16 days, the two sides need to start negotiating the longer terms, which means the second phase and the third phase. Second phase would be how to bring back the rest of the hostages, the 66 remaining hostages in Gaza, which Hamas will only agree to release if he gets the confirmation Israel is going to end the war. And this is exactly where American guarantees and also the negotiators, Qataris and Egyptians, have a very big role in helping Hamas kind of get the feeling that there is a chance for an end to this war. And the Americans have tried to find a way to get Netanyahu to agree to at least to the beginning of the deal without needing to agree to ending the war, which is something he was very persistent in refusing to do in the last 15 months. So this is the second phase. And if that succeeds, the third phase would be the reconstruction of Gaza. And it seems like these two are combined in the sense that the Americans will try to guarantee that Hamas will stick to the deal, keeping the hostages alive and releasing them, in return to knowing there will be the day after plan of reconstruction and a lot of money funneled into rebuilding Gaza. Many, many more details to be figured out in this. It's a very complex, the first phase itself is quite complex. Second and third feels like in years from now, though it's supposed to happen within a couple of weeks. But this is the bigger plan that we have at play, and we'll have to see how persistent the Americans are, how much leverage do they actually manage to have with both sides, and is this really the beginning of the end?
If we could just talk about the politics of this deal-making. We know that the extreme right members in Netanyahu's cabinet are against this deal. So can you talk about where this deal leaves Benjamin Netanyahu politically?
Very frail. He's been busy in the last days trying to gain as much support as he can from other members in the Knesset, in the parliament, that is, the Israeli parliament, but also within the extreme parties, the extreme right parties that are part of his coalition. He seemed to have realized that despite the fact that he's not going to get them to concede and to support the deal, but it seems like they will stick to his cabinet, which is something that is actually important for him to maintain, in power. At the same time, it could be that he can actually benefit from that, because if they see that the deal, if Israeli public sees that Israel goes through, despite the strong resistance that these extreme right leaders, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, have been showing in the last year plus, they might be losing their standing. This was their only card, basically, that they've been playing in the last months. And if they lose that, maybe they lose altogether public support. And that actually could strengthen Netanyahu politically at the end of it, because he will become the most important, if not the only leader of the right. We also know there are other people that are not officially yet in the race who might be coming, to attack Netanyahu when elections come. Now, nothing is done before October 26. But it brings Netanyahu into the position, we've been talking about how his precarious political situation has kind of kept him from going all in with this deal all along. But nothing has changed in that sense, other than the fact that he realizes he has far more to lose in his standing vis-a-vis Trump and the Americans than to gain, in the internal political game. And that's eventually what made the difference.
Shani Rosanis, our Middle East analyst. Shani, thank you for your analysis. Thank you so much.